So John Henry has raised more than $100 million in venture and public equity, has a background in markets and legal systems, graduate of Harvard and Columbia Law School, and if you don't mind me mentioning, also a year at my son's alma mater, University of the South in Sewanee, Tennessee. YSR, if you know what I'm talking about. You probably don't. But yeah, so welcome to John. So everybody, please, a round of applause for John. So, John, I want to get right into some questions with you. And there's something I've heard you say a few times. You said it at dinner the other night. You've said that the claims side of insurance is one of the most innovation-starved areas of the economy. Tell us a little bit about what you mean by that. Like, why is that?
Well, it's set up for all the participants in the market to enrich themselves, as opposed to it's about their efficiency in terms of making a profit, rather than having a streamline with a slow pay. The third party the agents, the clerks, the third party TPAs can spend more money. The lawyers by the hour can make more money. The hot hands in the market, like Buffett's in the market for, he likes a slow pay because it gives him more float to finance his hot hand in the stock market. So everybody's basically getting something out of the system, but it's totally broken.
So say a little bit more about that. I think some of this was definitely new to me. Like, why, I guess you kind of touched on this, but why has the industry relied on a slow pay model? It sounds like there are some significant financial incentives built into the system to reward people for not being efficient and not moving quickly.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's like what I said. I mean, if you're Warren Buffett or Primoise at Fairfax, the longer you can, if you have a delayed resolution model, slow pay, then basically the float lasts longer, and you have more, you have the use of the money longer. But we're on the meat and potato side. We're on the claims side. Chloe Laporte here and I, we started out
like
23 years ago, and we were in the self-insured market, and then we migrated to the insured market. But basically, it's all the whole system. The Mandarin class, the lawyers manage the managers, not the other way around. And so we got rid of our proprietary claims model. We got rid of 80% of the lawyers, 20 years ago, because we're buying a different legal service. So we had our fast pay on the lawyer's side, but until you guys came around and gave us a solution to finally manage for total cost with the clerks that stand there before the lawyers get the claims.
I'll just say, like, I talked to a lot of different prospects and clients, and I feel like you in particular were very zeroed in on the business impact that you wanted out of AI. But I don't get that from a lot of people in other industries. Sometimes it's sort of like we do a lot of qualification of clients to make sure that they actually have an objective, because a lot of AI projects don't succeed in moving to production because they're chemistry experiments, they're lab experiments. But let me just ask you the question. So what made you, how did you get so far ahead of the game? What made you think that AI could solve the problem? And if there's something that we did that works, let me know what we did too. Like, how did you believe in this?
Well, we're a problem in search of a solution, not a solution in search of a problem. And you're a company, you're a solution in search of a problem. So a bunch of things. So I have zero interest in being CEO of an insurance company that does things the same way that everybody does it. We want to do things differently. So we have a mindset of doing things differently. So when it came to AI, the burden of proof is not on whether we're going to do something in this. The burden of proof is on tell us why we can't do that. But we're not going to listen to that very long, because we're going to do everything. We're going to automate everything. So you guys have made us AI native, and so we're now looking at we're 40 this 4,000 hours. We got our agentic workforce is probably 250 agents now, and we're 45 times faster than a clerk, a TPA. Before we really, but right now, and this is only going to get going. This whole idea that we're in a race, for example, an analogy, that we're in a race with China on AI. Well, this isn't a race that finishes, right? We got fire 150,000 years ago. We got language. We've gotten we got the internet. All these things are not going away, and AI is only going to get faster and smarter. So there's no finish line. So we view our relationship with you guys as you're the most important relationship we have outside.
I was about to ask you a question that pretty much is covering that same territory. Like, what does fast play mean operationally? I think a lot of this was new to me.
What happens is that every hour that goes by, every day that goes by, every week, every month, the cost goes up. Okay, so if you want to be the low-cost player in this market, you have to be a fast pay. And so if you shut it down, that has two parts. The cost is the legal fees, and then the check you have to pay to make to the policyholder to make it go away. So that's on the indemnity side and the expense side. So we just shut the whole thing is shutting everything down and managing for total cost. But no one in the history of the industry, we're the first in the history of the industry to manage for total cost. And we have just scratched the surface on this. This system that you've given us now, it was 6 months to build it, to get it we were testing it but while we were building it, but now it's with the first TPA and for 5 months, and then we're going to now scale it. We're not going to be in any deal where we don't have our agentic workforce. And that yesterday, I was talking to Salim, and he's got this exponential company selling exponential thinking in company. And I read the book a couple of times, and I was just struggling. How do I relate that to? And it relates in the connection. We had this idea we want to be an exponential corporation, but what the hell does that mean? And then here, we've got an agentic workforce of 250 agents. We're not even. We just started. We're going to beat the line between AS and AI every day, between artificial stupidity and artificial intelligence, and we make this thing smarter and smarter and smarter. So the light went off. I said, Salim, I finally figured out what an exponential organization was, trying to figure out how in the world to explain this to a lay audience. With you, Scott, you've made us by making us AI native. You've made us into an exponential organization, and right now the marker, Seth just calculated it. Seth was saying we're 45 to 1. We're 45 times faster than the human, and that's assuming that the machine learning and the human learning skills are comparable, and they're not. That's 45 to 1 right there, 45 times faster. But once we make this thing smarter, we can make it smarter and smarter and smarter, right? So already with the first TPA, we've cut the cycle time, the shelf life on a claim by 150%. We've cut the expenses in half. We reduced the indemnity by a third, and we've only at 45 to 1 is not really. We've only seen a 40% increase, but when that fully kicks in, that 45 to 1, before it gets better, we're going to see the productivity. It's going to be exponential.
You mentioned a lot of numbers, and we may go into a little bit more depth there if people are curious, maybe in a Q&A. But I think one of the things that you've highlighted is the importance of having visibility, having dashboards. I think a lot of what people assume happens with AI implementations is more about, no shade here in OpenClaw. I love OpenClaw. But they're thinking a lot about one side of the equation, which is how do you interact with an AI, not what are the results. And I think you've described some of the problems in your world as an Easter egg hunt. Why don't you share with people what
Yeah,
you mean
Easter
by
egg hunt's my analogy for, okay, so this is what the lawyers do and the clerks that get the claims before the lawyers. They spend most of their time out on an Easter egg hunt trying to run down all the facts they need to settle, and they're not in a hurry to settle in a slow pay model, so they take forever. But so if I'm driving a car, right, and I have a dashboard in front of me, I can't drive a car without it's not safe to drive a car. You want all the information on the dashboard. So
Probably should look at the dashboard.
If I've got one of those fancy planes that you sell, and I am flying an airplane, I have a dashboard, right? So the dashboard replaces the Easter egg hunt, and so everything instantly comes in and gets populated on the dashboard. So now we can drive our insurance company with all the metric, everything there that we need to settle is instantly there, and we can drive and fly away. That's what AI native. So what you've done is in the last year has taken us from, like Tesla is really an AI company in the car and robot business. You've taken us from being an insurance company that uses AI to an AI company that's in the insurance space.
If I could draw double underlines under a sentence, that would be the best one right there. I love that. I'm an old technology guy, so I've worked in software companies going way back, and what I've found is that there was a moment where I realized, like when I was in my 20s, I want to work for software companies. Tech companies are the coolest companies. And what I've seen over the last 30 years is that every good company ultimately becomes a technology company if you want to succeed. And I love to hear the story that you're an AI company that happens to work in insurance. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So
It didn't the key is that we know what our problems are, right? And so we're looking for solutions. And so Claude and I, we were thinking about investing in an AI fund. And we went and saw this room full of people in their 20s in college. They know a lot about the technology, the solution, but they don't know what the problem is. So what's more valuable, I think, is the problem, because the more you can devise. So we're spending $500 million in premium. Our group is spending 5% of that, $25 million a year on fees and expenses with these clerks. And it's home alone. They got our checkbook, and it's a home alone situation. So no one in the history of the industry has ever had transparency. So, it's truism that you can't manage something unless you can measure it. But how can you measure it if you can't see it? And so what Supernal has given us is visibility. We have transparency now, and we can see. A very wise Frenchman said 500 years ago that there are only two things in life you should really worry about. And one is what you don't know, and the other is what you believe to be true that isn't. And the latter is really a subset of the former. So basically, here we are wanting to do things differently, pre-existing condition. Claude and I are coming in from the outside of the industry, so we can, we don't assume. I assume that most people are wrong most of the time, so we're questioning everything. Why are we doing this way? And the more you get to know, the more broken you see the system is. And so you guys have given us the ability now to really go from to really execute our vision on managing for total cost. Because how can we manage for total cost? It's like a pond there, and there are all these fish in there, but the water's muddy and you can't see. And now we can see. And so it's very exciting. I mean, the metrics on this are just going to get better and better.
And what we're trying to do here is, I'm not trying to become an expert in your business. I never will be the expert that you are in your business. But we want to be able to deliver empathy and understanding at scale. That you've got a problem in search of a solution. We've got a solution in search of a problem. We have a match.
Perfect match. Yeah.
Perfect match.
Salim and I were talking yesterday, and he used this word immune system. Salim's saying that the immune system is what your immune system does when a virus comes in. Your immune system spends 7 days making 5 or 6 antibodies, and it makes the T cells there too. And so when you bring all these presentations we've seen upstairs, these consultants and Salim, they're going around to these big
viruses have arrived.
Yeah, and the virus is the AI, right? So the organization has an immune system that wants to kill the foreign body, this AI thing. And so in our case, we didn't see it as a threat. We saw it as an opportunity. We got rid of our physical location 15 years ago. Everything, if you go to, Cloyd and I went to law school, but if we'd gone to business school, we read 1,000 cases on make versus buy. So we buy everything. So that's why it was another predisposition when we met
That's right.
Scott and his team, right? Because
smaller is better.
We want to buy it, not make it, right? It's always somebody better at something than we are, except what our special sauce is. So we didn't have an immune system problem, and I think that's what most corporations do.
That's exactly right, and we find that qualifying the right buyer for us is making sure that the immune system response is not going to overwhelm our ability to be a successful virus. As usual, John, you've put a provocative metaphor onto the table that I'm going to have to spend some time with and sit with and try to decide whether I really want to market our offering as a virus. But
that's Salim's analogy. I just like it.
It's a really effective one. So we're gonna introduce someone else here in a second. But John, thank you so much for being a wonderful customer and being a wonderful guest. Seith is president of Stanbridge University, a longtime innovator in private higher education. He has spent more than 27 years building education and training institutions, including early technology partnerships with Microsoft and the creation of Executive 2000. Today, Stanbridge is known for integrating advanced technology into education, including VR labs, robotics training, and AI-driven systems. Seith, welcome. So I'm going to ask you some questions, but as always, if there's something direction you want to go in, let's go there.
I'll wait for your questions.
Okay. But yeah, so first of all, can you give us a quick sense of the admissions operation at Stanbridge, how that works, and what challenges you were trying to solve?
So I'll hyper-focus on this section of the whole cycle. We're an external call center outside the country. We completely eliminated it. The pain point was trying to get individuals in another country onboarded. They work across different time zones. And so we have individuals who've called years into the past, and there's a process by which you reach out to them. And we were able to completely eliminate that call center within a matter of 3 months and have the efficiency of being able to use essentially a mouse to scale up the volume, the frequency with which we make calls. And I'll share the data on how good it's been as we proceed on the questions.
So I think one of the things that was less obvious to me from the start is the importance of outbound calls. Can you talk about where outbound calling fits into your overall business model there and what problems you're trying to solve?
So we're one of the largest producers of nurses in the state of California at all levels. We also deal with physical therapy, occupational therapy. So we're looking at very busy working individuals who have kids, who are single parents, who want to upskill and go on to become registered nurses or whatever the occupation is. So they'll make an inquiry and they get busy with life. So you had to make a couple of calls in a traditional sales funnel setting. Humans making those calls is possible, but it takes time away from those who are really good at what they do for these initial calls. This was a pain point. We had outsourced it some years ago to a foreign country, but managing that workforce and dealing with all the human resource issues of people showing up to work, being late to work, having issues with training them just got eliminated overnight by the time we implemented the AI solution.
Before we hop over to the AI piece, why outbound calls instead of passive, like technology systems like emails or forms? Did you have like significantly better results with outbound or?
It is certainly an, it was a game in patience waiting
you
to
made
see
money.
if the results would be better. But so the first data sets came in the first week, the second week. It took us about 3 months to figure out that it was a 500% increase in the metrics based on the artificial intelligence agents calling out to meetings set to the down funnel. So we were originally worried that an AI agent identifying themselves on the phone would result in the call being dropped, but it was the opposite. We got a 500% increase.
We have seen the same thing, and this is something that may be counterintuitive or surprising to people. It definitely was surprising to me to see how willing humans are to talk to AI voice agents. And I don't know, watching that video, sometimes I think like, depending on the audience, I have to tell people, by the way, that's an AI. Like I know you guys in this room are probably a little bit more AI savvy than maybe my mom. But I think that we've passed, we in some cases, we're hopping right over that uncanny valley and having a really human-like experience in those voice calls. And in fact, Fran, our engineer who was in the car doing that demo, sometimes he sounds a little less natural than the AI. No shade on Fran. Sorry, Fran. Had to do it. But anyway, what made you open to trying this? Did you have any skepticism about the idea of like an AI dialer, or what were you thinking?
Lots of skepticism. I was afraid it's not going to work, and that the agent would not get the calls answered. But as I said earlier, it was the opposite.
And I've heard that it's not only a cost savings over your managed call center, but you have higher conversion rates with AI.
Correct, about 500%.
Do you have any idea why that's happening?
Well, we're able to control the process by which we can scale, which we never could do with with a human call center in a foreign country. Again, this is not in the U.S.
Fair enough. So maybe you actually have a more human-like interaction from an AI. Let's talk about. So we like to name our AI teammates at Supernal. So we want people to be able to develop a relationship with them. You have an AI teammate, an AI employee called Olivia. Can you describe what Olivia does?
Well, she'll call individuals and ask if they're interested in reinitiating contact in regards to a pain point they've had to upskill themselves in the healthcare world, and essentially allow them to set up an appointment to meet with a human representative.
Speaking of human representatives, one of the things that we built into those workflows that I think is pretty cool is the ability to hand off on one of those calls to a human team. Can you talk about that and why that's important, how that experience should work?
Well, one of the complexities in setting this process up was 3 months of setting up workflows. It's not that easy. You have to just go through every scenario where you get a question, an objection, and so once you've mapped that out, there's a certain wall at which point the human has to pick up. So it's a seamless transfer. Once the AI agent detects that you're at a point where you cannot answer the questions, it queries the individual, would you like to speak? And we don't say human, but we say, what the job role is, an admissions representative. At that point, there's a warm transfer.
Right, and those warm transfers, again, just my experience working in this space, and I built IVR trees 20 years ago or 10 years ago or something like that. I think that there's some stigma around AI voice application or technology-powered voice applications in general, where you imagine your frustrated caller, or in this case, the recipient of a call, mashing 0 frantically over and over again, trying to find a way to get out of talking to this machine. And we really find the exact opposite. And the idea of a natural handoff to a human is the exact opposite of your kind of worst case scenario assumptions about how an AI voice agent could work. So I think you guys have an amazing implementation. So Olivia, by my numbers here, is handling over 1,000 calls a week. What do you consider the biggest impact from your perspective as president? Like, what's the win for you? What are the wins for you?
It's actually about 4,000 calls, not 1,000.
4,000. Okay.
And we can scale on demand, and we can scale with efficiency, with quality. We know exactly how the person sounds. We don't have to worry about what the answers are going to be. We don't have to worry about anybody showing up on time, whether they're going to call in sick. This is working 24, I mean, it's not 24/7, it's at the times that we set. So there has been a cost reduction, but the biggest opportunity is in the quality control in the process and the ability to scale on demand.
Scaling on demand, dig in on that a little bit. Like, what would you have had to do with your offshore call center in order to scale up or down?
Well, I mean, let people go, add people, the process of onboarding folks over weeks or months, ensuring quality control, taking a look at changing workflow processes, scripts. Anytime this changes, this is essentially happening in minutes on a computer right now.
Right. I think that's, to me, maybe as a technologist, the ability to scale up and down seamlessly is just like there's no way to reproduce that in the human labor domain. So I'm super excited about that. I love to hear that answer. So was there like an aha moment for you where you felt like it's working, or have you gotten there yet, actually?
There were a few. We were listening to the live recorded calls. I was somewhat, as you said, a skeptic. Is this going to work? But I was listening to each of these calls every week that I was sent by the appropriate departments, and it is clear that it was working, but we had to fine-tune it every time, as Johnny showed. What is the pause? What was the intonation? All of those tiny tweaks were required in order to get to the better conversion rates. But listening to the call was one of the first inflection points. Secondly, looking at the numbers as far as conversions, it's just the numbers were just stunning. That's it.
Yeah, I think I'm open to going into this a little bit if you're comfortable with it. Like, I think people tend to underestimate edge cases and the complexity of that kind of tuning that you're describing. How do you think about like that as a process internally? Like, how do you get people to trust? This kind of comes back to the question earlier of like with John and DryStone. How do you build trust internally with your team that this is going to work, that it is working, or that it's failing, and how do you course correct? Like, how do you think about the virus, a good virus that's entered your system?
So it depends on the team that you're working with. I mean, I had an interesting case about a year ago when we're implementing AI across different Gen Z individuals, 25 years in age, essentially raised a religious objection to the use of AI at work. I was stunned. I said, what part of the Constitution protects your ability to use AI in the office? So he spoke to the attorneys, and they said, there's absolutely no way in which these individuals can object to the use of AI. So that was one department, and these are the youngest individuals who potentially saw the writing on the wall when it comes to automation. So the unit that we used was one that was predisposed off to innovation, and they had the highest utilization of AI already. So trust within the department was already existing in regards to AI. It is just a matter of experimenting, and this team has a lot of innovation in R&D that they do.
That makes a lot of sense. I will say it feels like we're in upside down land sometimes when I see all the skepticism. I have a 19-year-old and a 23-year-old son, and they give me all kinds of grief if I create a random picture while watching a TV show. Like, Dad, why did you have to do that? Like, you're draining a lake. But I think that the biggest impact that we can have, one of the biggest impacts we can have as a partner for businesses like yours, is to kind of help model the right way to, I guess, I'm sticking with your metaphor, John, to suppress the immune system reaction as much as possible, and make sure that we have a successful deployment, because it's not just about technology. Sometimes it's about psychology. So one last question for you, Seeth. Like, before you think about going into other workflows, before you feel comfortable even maybe scaling this one, what do you want to be true about reliability and performance? Like, do you have sort of your own internal bar of, we have to get to this level of confidence, we have to get to, like, is there anything holding you back from those kind of expanding into other use cases with us or with another vendor? But like,
none. So, I mean, we've got multiple lines in the fire in regards to this. We're looking at essentially enabling the workflows to do multiple times better. So there's no hesitation. The problem is, which individuals are you looking at? There are some units that are more predisposed off to experimentation, others that are absolutely scared of using AI. So that's the challenge that we have. To your point, the immune system, and to what John had mentioned, how do you raise a religious objection to using AI at work?
Yeah, and it really does feel religious.
Oh, it
Well
sure
stated.
did.
Well, thanks for answering those questions. And I want to thank you, Yasith, for joining. And everybody, can you give a round of applause for Yasith? Thank you so much.